everyone, and welcome to day 2 of the Forest Growers Research Conference for 2020. I'm Ian Hinton. I'm the chair of the FGLT Forest Research Committee, and in my day job I'm a senior manager with Timberlands Limited. If you're anything like me and you need a second cup of coffee to get yourself going, now's the time to grab that. In the meantime, I have the pleasure of introducing the first 2 sessions of this second day. The first session will be chaired by Paul Adams from Rainier, focusing on health and vitality of our forests, and the second session will be run by John Moore, focusing on how we can improve productivity and profitability of our forests. Before we get into the detail of the day's proceedings, I'd like to deviate slightly. Most of you know Russell Dale, and most, but perhaps not all, will know that Russell is finally, as his wife would say, retiring at some point close to the end of this year. Russell, I've known him for 30 years. During that time, he's been a senior manager in the Forest Service, in Forestry Corporation, Fletcher Challenge Forests, Timberlands Limited, and Carter Holt Harvey. And that was all before he joined FOA as the Forestry Research Manager in 2007. Since 2007, Russell has worked with all of us, worked very hard to change the face of research. He's used his unique skills to bring together industry at all levels. He's able to work with the doers on the ground, also with CEOs. He's created fantastic relationships with science, so that scientists, science administrators, not just with SIME but across other sectors, and importantly with government. And it's that unique set of skills and the way, Russell, that you have applied those unique set of skills that is a huge part of why we've been so successful in recent times with research programs that are providing great opportunity and improvement to our current forest industry. So Russell, thank you very much, and we hope you enjoy your retirement as much as you enjoyed working with all of us. Cheers. Okay, well, back to the agenda. Just a note that the comments that I'm about to share with you are my own views. Some of you will share them, some of you won't. But I think what's important is that we recognise that the past is a good predictor of the past. It's not necessarily an accurate predictor of what the world may look like going forward for forest produce. No doubt, though, in my mind that there is a real opportunity for forestry and for forest fibre. Now I say fibre as opposed to saw lumber, which tends to be the backbone of the New Zealand industry. There's evidence out there that the world will need 3 times the amount of fibre that it currently has available, and that's a real opportunity for us. What's not so well understood is the form of that fibre, and the examples I've got in the next couple of pictures. The first one, that's an iPhone 6, so not very big, and that is the feedstock into a rather large mouldings plant in Brazil. The fibre supply to them is 16-year-old Pinus tator, and they use the whole of that resource. You can see in the raw sawn, the green sawn lumber, that they're producing mouldings out of the core wood, the juvenile core, and they do have substantial issues with distortion on drying. The next slide is taken from South Australia. It's the South Australians utilising small thinnings down to 5 centimetre SED. Here in New Zealand, I don't think there's anybody who's utilising logs of that small dimension. Cost is another issue. This photo is forestry supervisor visiting his crews. He's using a motorbike, as opposed to the next slide, which is a four-wheel drive, stuck in the supposed sand forests of South Australia. And I can assure you it was a bloke driving, not the woman who was digging them out. So how do we lift productivity? And I'm not telling you anything you don't already know, but it's that mix of genetics, nutrition. And when I say nutrition, I mean soils as well as mineral fertilizers. It's also silviculture, so it's how we bring all of those together. And we cannot forget the customer. So wood quality is paramount as well. The agricultural world has been working with the genome for a long time, and we're just starting to get going. And if we're able to double the annual lift in productivity from genetics, that will make a huge impact on the quality and productivity of our sites. Equally with nutrition. And again, as I said earlier, I don't think of nutrition as just mineral nitrogen or mineral fertilizers. It's about understanding the soil biome. You will see in a subsequent talk that Zion is starting to do some pretty exciting work in this area, and I think we all look forward to the results of that. Examples of other work going on in the productivity space, it's work around land prep and how that impacts on productivity, work with Dispot, understanding the internal features of different genomes, and of course you can link that either into customer strategies or back into your genetic deployment processes, measurement of the forest. You've got hover map, you've got LiDAR, and also nutrient flows. What happens when you fertilize a stand with mineral fertilizer? Does it go into the trees? Does it volatilize? Or does it leach? And those are all key questions that need to be asked, and work is going on in those areas. And finally, in this section, silviculture, get it right. In the first slide, you maximize carrying capacity. Get it wrong, you have disease, you have wind throw and the like. The last slide is mixed land use in Brazil. The farmer here finds it more profitable to run forestry, in this case eucalyptus, cropping and cattle on his farm. And as I said earlier, the world, in my view, will not be the same going forward as it has been in the past. We are going to get more and more pests and diseases. Climate change is certainly driving some of that. First slide here is from Germany, and that's the effect of the bark beetle. Fire's the next issue. This particular photo is from South Australia. It took 15 years to grow and 20 minutes to burn down. The next one is just above the Yosemite Valley. Climate change has brought about hot, dry summers. Bark beetle has come down from Canada as a result of climate change, and ideal conditions for fires. And then finally here, spraying. Spraying is a mainstay for New Zealand forestry, particularly in the establishment phases. There's a lot of pressure now, and I'm unsure that we'll actually be able to continue with those practices. Technology is going to become a driver of how we work in the future. Remotely operated machines, a real health and safety opportunity there. The Aerosonde, that's a pilotless drone, the ability to stay up in the air for 7 to 10 hours at a time, measuring the forest, and of course driverless as opposed to rudderless trucks will make an appearance at some point in our industry. In the future, we won't be managing our forests just for fibre. We will be managing them for other purposes. And finally, our people, we need to be thinking very carefully and clearly about the type of skills that we're going to require to drive ourselves forward in the future. Okay, well, thank you for listening. I hope you found the conference stimulating and thought-provoking. I think we have a really exciting future ahead of us. And over to you, Paul and John. Cheers.